All right. Hi, everyone. We've reached the end of the week and the end of the book, The Systems View of Life, chapter 18, where we're going from the picture that we painted in chapters 16 and 17 about the problem or problems and the roots of the problems. And chapter 18 takes a slightly different perspective and looks at the solutions, what needs to be done. Again, we're going to be seeing connectivity over separateness. We're going to be seeing circularity over linearity, all of this stuff that you've been thinking about before in the book. So they start by saying that there are 4 clusters of that are focal points of existing grassroots coalitions. The first is to reshape the governing rules and institutions of globalization. The second is the task of raising awareness of the climate crisis and catalyzing leadership for developing appropriate energy and climate policies. The third issue cluster is the opposition to the way food is produced, and specifically genetic modification. We'll talk more about that. And the promotion of sustainable agriculture as opposed to the way that GMOs work. The fourth is eco-design, so the design of our cities, of our cityscapes, basically our physical structures. Then they give you a list of organizations that are working in this way, so you can go out and find all the important stuff that's actually being done. See, this is a very this is something that I like about this book. It's very practically oriented. It's always taking something that's already happening and showing why that's good. So one of the core principles is the principle of subsidiarity. It could also be called the principle of decentralization of power. I think that's a clear way to put it. So decentralization of power means that whenever power can be local, it should be local. There should be no central governing body if it's not absolutely necessary. So this is something that we're going to see in Hobbes. That idea is very strong in Hobbes about authority and the necessity of authority. The systems view takes the opposite view, and so does Spinoza, that power should be decentralized, it should be democratic, democratized. The more voices that come into play, the better the decision making. They go on to discuss the current form of corporation. One thing that's very striking about this is that corporations can actually get sued if they put the environment before profit. It is absolutely imperative. It's not only imperative, they're legally bound to maximize their profits. Remember the distinction between maximization and optimization. Maximization takes as much as possible. Optimization makes it as good as possible in relationship to the conditions of production. So maximizing shareholder return is a legal imperative for the corporations of today. This is obviously a huge problem. Why? Well, you tell me. So do read through 18.1.2. It's fascinating reading. All of this stuff is also going to work as examples for you when you write your essays. Um, 18.1.3 discusses ownership, which is also a crucial notion. The idea that they're putting forward is that we need to move beyond what they call capitalism and socialism, where capitalism is the idea of private ownership or ownership by large capital organizations like banks or investment banks. And socialism is state ownership. Both of those are equally destructive. That's the argument. So they're not arguing for a state takeover of private business or anything like that. Just because they're saying that corporations are bad doesn't mean that they're, evil Stalinists. We need new forms of ownership that move beyond capitalism and beyond socialism, that are decentralized. They call this alternative generative ownership. The idea of generative ownership, as you might guess, is that it's ownership that reproduces the conditions for its own production, for its own existence. Do look at the guest essay by Marjorie Kelly. She's a very prominent business ethicist. I know that a lot of you are interested in business, so this might be your focal point in the course. If you have any questions, ask them in the forum, and tell me what you think is the most important parts of this. Her basic point is that there are other forms of organization than the corporation, and these are the ones that we have to promote moving forward. So we go on about nuclear power, energy. Feel free to skim. It's a long chapter, but do look at what you think might be the more important examples for your own interests. So they're going through these initial points about raising awareness, changing global policies, and so on. We'll get to Lester Brown's Plan B that we discussed before. Some of you discussed it in your posts. And changing the energy sector. What I want to emphasize now is I want to end with a note on GMO. One of you had a comment about GMO not actually being harmful, and that's absolutely right when it comes to just the biochemical aspects of it. Genetic modification just means breeding seeds. You can breed them in any way possible. The point is that the way that it's being done right now, when it's being done within the framework of the global corporation, it breeds for uniformity. It breeds for vulnerability. It's bad for the local producers. It inhibits the designs that we need in the global food chain. That's the argument. The argument is that given the form of corporation that is producing food, genetic modification is absolutely destructive given what we need as a global community. Read Seeds of Life on page 438 by Vandana Shiva, an Indian scientist and activist. It's a beautiful essay. So that's my word on GMOs. And on chapter 18, I'm glad we got this far in the book, and I hope that you're enjoying it. The concluding remarks is really nice. They come back to the beginning and they say that what we need is a fundamental change of metaphors from seeing the world as a machine to understanding it as a network. That is the bottom line of this book. It is one of the bottom lines of this course. Next week we're going to start looking at how this stuff works in the current view of human nature. So differing views of what it means to be human, and how this works at work. What is work? What is value? How's value produced in this strange economy that is depleting the world's resources and causing climate change? So stay tuned. For now, read chapter 18 and post something interesting. Thank you.